Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast, live from Benchmark International Arena ahead of tonight's contest between the New York Rangers and your Tampa Bay Lightning. Off yesterday. Listen, yesterday was an off day for a lot of people. Happy Veterans Day. Everybody that has ever served for our country, including my grandfathers, that I wouldn't be here without them, and they both served. So yesterday was a very special day. We're back. We are back, baby, and we are ready. We are just so ready to go for today. Where my microphone's moving over here, baby. My microphone's trying to get in on the fun too. I will not be in the building tonight. I got practice. We have a tournament this weekend, so I won't be here in the building tonight. So I'm not suited and booted today, but I like this sweatshirt right here. I'm feeling good about this. Feeling pretty damn good about this. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I appreciate everybody that is tuning in all the time. I appreciate all the dedication. The 10 toes down. Yeah, the dedication, baby. That's what it takes to be successful here. And of course, we got to thank our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, and Evra Health. Couldn't do this without you guys. And of course, the super chats. Chan in the house. I live in Tallahassee, and that being the case, my local station shows the Jags. Who outside of Duval cares about the Jags? I don't know. Probably not that much. Good to see you all back. David Terry and Chris Cole. We'll talk about the Lightning here momentarily. Of course, it is a Wednesday, so at 1 o'clock. What's up to Bart Hill? I see you. Wednesday at 1 o'clock, our guy Erik Erlendsson, LightningInsider.com, will join us on the program to talk all things Bolts, to see what the heck this team is going to do with all these injuries. It was a skeleton crew out there for morning skate today, but we'll get into that here in a bit. We'll hear from John Cooper. We'll hear from Yanni Gord. Also, Buccaneers practice today. A big name returns to the practice field. Just a walkthrough, but still, having this guy out there with the team is a huge sign that he could be ready to return to the lineup on Sunday up there in Orchard Park against the Buffalo Bills. Going to be a hell of a matchup against Josh Allen. They're coming off of a loss, a ugly loss there in Miami against the Dolphins. So this is, if the Buccaneers don't want to go on a skid, everybody's like, oh yeah, this is the time of the year they go on a skid after a strong start. A way to quench those fears is to be able to come out like a bat out of hell on Sunday against Buffalo. It's a good team. You're going to be challenged. Let's see if the Buccaneers can rise to the occasion and do their thing. Also, Todd Bowles speaks today over at the Evan Hill Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. Baker Mayfield speaks over at the Evan Hill Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. That's about 12:35. So we'll break down some of the Bowles comments and some of the Baker comments. And then, of course, the big news yesterday. If you watched it last night, I don't watch all of the college football playoff reveal shows because I think you kind of have an idea of what it's all about. But I was very curious to see what they were going to say about our South Florida Bulls. And they came in at number 24 just to see them on the bracket. It was great. It was amazing. And we'll talk about that here momentarily as we inch closer. We are 3 days away from the biggest game of the season, but I think one of the most important games in the history of USF football. They got to go up there to Annapolis to take on a very tough, disciplined Navy midshipman club. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But we are here at Benchmark International Arena, and there are some members of the New York Rangers still on the ice. And it was kind of a hodgepodge of who was out there today for the Bolts. And we've seen that Dominic James has retroactively retroactively been put on IR. Same thing with Ryan McDonough. So those guys are going to be out for the next couple of days. So no bueno there. We did see that Kachuk got called up. We saw that Sabarin got called up. Those guys were both in the room after morning skate today. It was weird because there was no Hedman out there, but I saw Hedman walking around. Sorelli could be back in the lineup tonight. Looks like Nick Paul is going to be back in the lineup tonight, so that is a positive sign. This is where the depth of your team gets challenged. And in years past, when the Lightning had no room, because they were so close to the salary cap, they were screwed. If this would have happened last year, they would have been in big trouble. Big trouble. But much smarter this year. Guys like Jack Finley are going to play. Could we see a guy like Curtis Douglas play tonight? Now when you have all of these defensemen out there, Darren Radish, who was getting scratched a couple of games, now he'll be in there tonight. What happens with Max Crozier? Maybe he'll be back in. Charles Edouard Destu ain't going nowhere. Neither is Chernak and Moser. I think Hetty will play tonight. John Cooper didn't want to answer any questions about any of the he didn't want to answer any of the questions about the lineups because he didn't know. And usually we speak to John Cooper before practice, after practice. But today, for some reason, we spoke to him before. He just wanted to get it out of the way. But one thing I want to bring up, because this is the question I asked him, and we're going to hear from him. We're also going to hear from Yanni Gord as well. What have we been waiting for when it comes to this Tampa Bay Lightning team? What have we been clamoring for since the 2021 Stanley Cup winner? The third line of a Yanni Gord, Barclay Goodrow, and a Blake Coleman. Can we get something similar to that? And I think for the first time in 4 years, we see some semblance of that with the quote-unquote fourth line. And Coop doesn't ever want to call it the fourth line, ever, ever, ever. But in the reality, they have to, it's the fourth line. It is what it is. But that line with Yanni Gord, Pontus Holmberg, and Zemgus Girgensons, they're going out over the boards first. They go out after goals. They go before goals. There's just a consistency there that they play a good, honest game. And there's no surprise that Yanni Gord is right in the middle of that. So I asked John Cooper about that, and we'll hear from him. We'll also hear from Yanni Gord. But John Cooper speaks about the game tonight against the Rangers and all, his team. And Coop is, he's Coop. It's just the way it goes. Let's hear from the Lightning head coach and what he had to say today before. I usually say after, but before morning skate.
We only have one game, so just like that, really.
John, in terms of the guys that you called up this morning, Sabarin and Kachuk, what made those two guys kind of fit what you needed?
They had really good preseasons for us, and it's you come into camp, you work hard, you don't make the team, but you make a impact with the coaching staff and the organization, the players, and so it's you go back and look at guys that gave you everything in the camp, and so anyway, they were here.
When you look at tonight's game, obviously you're back on home ice, you stacked a couple of home wins together. Is there any one thing that you're trying to focus on tonight, or anything you think really needs to be nailed down?
No, same things I've been telling you. All the other times, it's attention to detail and defensive end and taking risk out of our game. We've done it better of late, and it's not surprising winning's followed.
Coop, that Girgensons line there with Gord and Holmberg, now that you've seen it for a couple of games, it had early success. It just seems like they've been able to maintain that. What is it about their player profiles that makes them work so well together?
Relentless workers. They all have skill. They don't play high-risk hockey. They take pride in checking and can chip in with goals here and there when have to. So it's a really dependable line.
A lot of people were always looking back at that third line from years ago and trying to have somebody like you're going to throw over the boards the first time that played that low-risk hockey. Is that kind of the closest line we've had to something like that from a couple years ago?
I mean, Coleman was a 30-goal scorer in this league, so he. But there was a lot of the same mentality, in them all, and it's guys that are, just sacrifice, do a lot of things. So it's the Luke Glendening line. he always prided himself on doing all the things that other guys might not do, and those guys do it.
How often do you talk to Joel? Your schedule's busier than ever. How often do you directly communicate with him and Syracuse, Joel Bouchard?
Oh, there's contact. I mean, they were a pretty tight group, so whether it's with him, Tamby, Julian, the assistants, our assistants, so everybody's, there's a lot of communication with us all.
So there you have it, John Cooper speaking about the team and taking risk out of their game. And I mean, that's why this team has been so successful here the last couple of weeks. That's the team that gives you, it's kind of weird how we got the ebbs and flows, right? A couple of weeks ago, it was like, what the hell's wrong with the Lightning? And the Buccaneers are playing their ass off. And now the sky is falling for the Bucs after the loss to the New England Patriots, and especially with the two teams they're about to face with the Bills and the Rams. And now the Lightning are playing really well. Shout out to Nathan Elliott, and everybody out there. Appreciate you. But yeah, I mean, taking the risk out of your game, and that's the key. It is the key. Making sure that you're taking care of business. And this is like this in any sport, but you see it in hockey. When the Lightning are trying to outscore other teams, they're in big trouble. When they try to outplay other teams and they're focused on winning games regardless of what the score is, that's when they're a damn good club. Shout out to Hammer and everybody out there. I mean, that you got to feel good if you're a Lightning fan right now. Got to feel good. Now, another guy I got a chance to speak with earlier today was Yanni Gourde. Now, we remember Yanni, and we love what Yanni brought to the table years ago. And then when they brought him back, I think there wasn't an unhappy person in the house. But I asked Yanni, too, about how the similarities are between the line that he's on now and that line that helped the Lightning win back-to-back cups with Goodrow and Coleman, because I think I do see similarities between the two. And then also him coming back, right, last year was different. He comes back, he's on the fourth line, he's on the second line, he's playing on the first line in the playoffs. Is it different now that his role is a little bit more established? Here's what Yanni had to say after morning skate today.
Yanni, man, I asked Coop earlier today about your line with Zemgus and Pontus, and I asked him about the similarities to the line. Everybody always talks about that line with Coleman and also with Barclay, but you guys always went over first. That was your thing. You went out there after goals, before goals, and I asked him if there were some similarities, and he said it was. He said there was. He said there was. Just a smartness, the way you guys take the risks out of the game, the way you're forechecking. What do you see as far as the similarities between this line and that line?
Yeah, I mean, we know our role. We know the identity of our line, and we want to execute it in that regard. And we want to be going over the board first because we know our role is going to bring puck in the O-zone, bring a ton of energy for the next line, and set the next line and the next few shifts up. And I think we take a lot of pride in doing that. And obviously we've got two very responsible players on my line as well, very similar to when I was playing with Barclay and Cole Z. So a ton of similarity there, and it's been a lot of fun finding the chemistry with these two guys.
What about you? Because last year was great, and you and I talked about the familiarity coming back to Tampa. But you mentioned your role, and I think that's where you played your best hockey your first 10 years. So you knew your role. Did you know your role as much when you first came back last year compared to now? Because it just seemed like you were familiar with everything, but you played up and down the lineup, you played center, you played wing. Do you feel more comfortable now as far as where your role is, or is it?
No, I mean,
different or the same?
I felt pretty good last year, just coming back and getting
also coming back from the injury too, right?
Yeah, coming back into the mix and playing with, I played up and down the lineup, playing with great players. It felt good last year, and I did know my role a little bit. My role is never really going to change. It's like bring energy, do the small thing, do the right details of the game, make sure you take care of the puck and play well defensively, and it's very similar to this year again. I gotta bring my energy and finding chemistry with my line is it's just great to have, because then we can play faster. We know what to expect out of one another, and we look fast out there just because we know exactly where the puck is going every time. So that's kind of how I'm seeing my game right now.
Coop talks about taking the risk out of your game, and for a guy that's, you've reached the top of the mountain with these guys a couple of times, do you notice that when the group's on the same page for an extended period of time? It's one thing to do it one game at a time, but when you notice it for 2-3 weeks at a time, do you notice the difference in the way you guys play when you take that risk out and the score kind of dictates that you're playing 2-1 games and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know that if we cheat the game, we're going to score goals, but also there's going to be more goals that ends up in the back of our net, and that's not what we want, and that's not how we want to win games. And just taking the risk out of our game and knowing that we trust the process, and knowing that our team, we're going to find goals eventually, and we're going to find ways to put the puck in the back of the net. So just trust it and be patient and be mature and have some maturity in your game, and knowing that eventually we're going to get our chances.
You want to talk about beloved players in the Tampa Bay area? Yanni Gourde is on that list, isn't he? Is he going to be a guy that's going to have his number in the rafters? Probably not. Is he going to be in the Lightning Hall of Fame one day? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you win another cup. You got 3 cups. Yanni's the best, though, man. He really is. And I got a chance to talk to him after that, too, with the family and how they're doing. And he's just like, yeah, man, I spent time in Seattle. Like, this cold weather ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. But you love Yanni Gourde, man. You do. I mean, he's the kind of guy. And that's why when I talk about, like, the pride of being a Tampa Bay sports fan, right? And I think this is where something where the Rays missed the boat on completely is, like, Yanni is one of those guys where you're proud to spend your hard-earned money to go watch that guy play. And I think that has something to do with why people love a guy like Baker Mayfield so much for the Buccaneers. It's not just that the Buccaneers are successful. It's because they love somebody that is willing to really, like, put their head down and barrel through the freaking wall for you. That's why all these years later, people love Mike Alstott, right? Like, think about the A-Train. He's one of the most beloved players in history in Tampa Bay sports, the A-Train. It's why people love a Baker. It's why people love a Bucky Irving. Now, it's different, right? And it's not just because they're the most beloved doesn't mean that they're the best, right? I think another one of the most beloved players that we've seen in the last couple of years is Randy Arozarena, right? You look at what Randy was able to do, and, of course, he showed up big in the 2020 playoffs, but just the way that he was so communicative and friendly and warm with the fans. Like, he just endeared himself to everybody that went to Tropicana Field to watch that team play. And I hope going forward that is something that is a priority for the Tampa Bay Rays, having more people like that, having more people where, you are just, they're not just good. They're not just good players. They're exciting players. And it's almost like an everyman type of thought process. That's why I think people love a guy like Yanni Gourde so much, and why people love somebody like Baker Mayfield so much. So I love this. SRQ Tom. Whenever I am sad, I look up Mike Alstott highlights and it makes me feel better. You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong. I mean, it's still to this day. And that's the great thing. I know there's a lot of perils of social media, but when you can go back and you can look at highlights on TikTok or Instagram and all that stuff, and you see Mike Alstott, it's freaking nuts, man. What that guy was able to do. Just an incredible player. Such a nice guy, too. Shout out to Chan for the $5 super chat yet again. To all the vets watching right now, thank you. We love you. Again, thank you to all the veterans out there. Again, I mentioned this before. Both of my grandfathers served, and those guys, I wouldn't be here without them. So unbelievable. Yanni is 5'9", plays like a guy that's 6'4". You're not 6'4". You're not wrong, DT. You are not wrong. Robert Cochran, Jay, did you see the Oklahoma City belt to ass of Golden State last night? Listen, you can't be bragging about the Thunder, buddy. They're by far the best team in the NBA. And now, if you don't win the NBA championship, it's on you, buddy. It is on you, because I look at the other conference, and the Knicks I think they're in second. Detroit's in first. I mean, I don't know if I want to see the Knicks and the Thunder in the finals. That might not be good for my guys. But the Thunder, wow. Unbelievable. Mike Alstott, highlights get me pumped for the gym. Yes, whatever it takes. And what else gets you pumped is the news that we saw today. I have to show this because I love my guy, Greg Allman from Fox Sports. Okay. Hold on. All right. I want to show, listen, a lot of other people have shown this, but I want to show Greg's tweet because it is like my favorite one. Big news today from the Advent Health Training Center at One Buc Place. And it is Bucky Irving has returned. He has returned to the walkthrough. Now, does this mean he's necessarily going to play on Sunday? No, but this is what we get from our guy, Greg Allman. Nobody's better than Greg. Look at it's freaking awesome, dude. Big news from Bucs practice. Bucky Irving participating for the first time since September. Just a walkthrough, but a long-awaited return. And here's my favorite part. Apologies, picks from the far end zone, phone through binoculars. This is the type of effort. This is the type of content we are here for. This is why we have a video medium here on our show. Our guy, Greg Allman. Look at him right there. He's out there. You see Tristan Wirfs. Ben Bredesen is out there with a sleeve as well. Love it. Love it. Greg, you are the best. I'm huge fan of this. Not just the content that Bucky's back, but also Greg. That's the kind of effort that Greg Allman gives you, man. Just nobody better than our pal Greg Allman from Fox Sports. Now, listen. What does this mean for Sunday? We don't know. We'll see. And from what we've heard over the last couple of weeks, and we had this conversation with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, who's going to join us with the Ever Health Injury Report tomorrow at 12:30. He said this weeks ago that the shoulder was probably a bigger issue than the foot. And the longer that he was out, then it probably leaned in that direction of the shoulder injury. Now, that is tough because you have to take a hit. And you know the way that Bucky is, you know the type of running back he is. He's not the type of guy that's going to shy away from contact. He's not the biggest guy in the world, which certainly doesn't help him in a situation like this. But he's a guy that's going to lower his head. He's not going to shy away, and he's going to try to get those extra yards. So you can't just be like, oh, wow, it looks like you're healed. You should be fine. No, you have to make extra. You have to give extra precaution. And you have to make sure that this guy is almost more than 100% healthy. So that's why he's been out. And I still don't think it's a guarantee that he's in there on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. Do I hope he is? Yes. Is this a step in the right direction? 100%, because we haven't seen any semblance of this. And if you saw reports from earlier in the day, reports were that it was unlikely that we were going to see Bucky or Chris Godwin out there today. No Hassan Reddick out there. Again, Luke Gedeke was there. The offensive line play is going to be huge. And we're going to talk about the offensive line and Bucky's return and Baker Mayfield's comments because, again, he speaks later on today. Remember, the Beckles and Recher podcast at about 3:15 today from the Dignitary Cafe. This is a big next couple of weeks for the Buccaneers. And it's not, to me, as much of their winning and losing. It's more about their health. Like that could be one of the biggest dictators of what this team is going to do this year in the 2025 season. It's not so much about the wins and the losses right now in the middle of the season. It's how they manage these injuries. You can't rush guys back. And I don't want to say that they rush Chris Godwin back because I don't think you know about that injury until it happens. But again, we've had this chat with Dr. Rodriguez about when you put that hardware in your fibula and then you have the strain of running and you're taking hits and like if you do have a recurrence of that injury, you're going to see some damage on either the top side or the bottom side of that hardware. And that is what happened with Chris Godwin. Now, when Bucky, you have a multitude of injuries. When you have more than just one, you got to take time to heal. We saw Luke Gedeke come back, and then they took him out and put him on IR. That's probably part of the reason why they put him on IR in the first place. And I know a lot of people out there are wondering, why didn't they put Bucky on IR? Why didn't they put Chris Godwin on IR? I think the injuries that they had were very tough to tell. And again, I'm speaking just from an amateur an amateur physician here, but we'll ask Dr. Rodriguez tomorrow. But you have to think, if the Buccaneers thought initially going to be out for 4 weeks, that they would have put him on IR. But for Bucky, it took a little while longer. I think for Chris Godwin, you just don't know how that bone is going to heal. So that's my, I don't want to say concern, but that's just something I'm going to keep a close eye on over these next couple of weeks. When you are looking at a team that has playoff aspirations, Super Bowl expectations, man, rushing guys back too soon is a death knell. And you also have to get lucky, right? We've been speaking about this for a couple of months now. Well, when the Buccaneers get healthy, that's not the way it goes all the time. There's no quota. It's not, well, you get 20 injuries and that's it per season. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it goes. So we know that when you look at Mike Evans and when you look at Kalijah Kancey, we could see those guys back at some point, maybe, hopefully. The longer this team plays, the more of a chance we have to see those guys. And can you imagine if this Buccaneers team gets to the NFC Championship game and you're talking about getting Kalijah Kancey and Mike Evans back? Shit, man, that would be pretty freaking badass. But you got to get there. And you got to be as healthy as humanly possible. And I think you look at this offensive line, guys need to step up. And we had this conversation with Ian on Monday. When Baker Mayfield comes into the press conference room after the game, and he says guys need to play with more pride. Guys need to practice better during the week. We eliminated all the guys that he wasn't talking about. We eliminated the Tez and the Emeka and the Cade Otton and Luke Gedeke and Rashad and Sean Tucker. I mean, he's looking at some of his closest mates there on his side of the ball. You need to make sure that you're taking care of business if you're Baker Mayfield, if you're saying things like that. But I am looking directly at two guys on the offensive line going into this game against Buffalo. And I'm looking at Tristan Wirfs and I'm looking at Graham Barton. Graham, second-year player out of Duke, first-round pick last year. And Tony Mayberry said something to the fact of maybe you kind of stunted his development a little bit in year two because you started out the season with him playing left tackle. There could be some truth to that. But you would think if he would go home, to the center position, he is a center or guard. This point of the season, 9, 10, 11 weeks in, he would be in a better, standing when it comes to how well he's playing. And let's hope down the stretch he finds it because it's just not been good enough. And Tristan Wirfs today, are you still the best left tackle in football? We got to see more. We got to see more from Tristan. This is the guy that you're banking on. Now that you have 4/5 of your offensive line, if Bredesen does come back and play against Buffalo, you've got Gedeke, you've got Bredesen, you've got Wirfs, you got Barton, whether it's Feeney or Jordan or anybody else that's going to play at that guard spot. I mean, there's injuries up and down the offensive lines of every team in the National Football League. Now, this continuity is there for the most part. You got to be better. And I don't want to hear about the lack of continuity in the offensive line with the reason why Tristan Wirfs isn't playing better. Tristan Wirfs is getting beat on one-on-one moves. What the hell does that have to do with continuity? We're not talking about stunts. We're not talking about twists. We're not talking about him handing guys off to the guard. We're talking about one-on-one moves on the outside where Tristan is losing that battle. That has nothing to do with continuity. He's got to be better. He's got to rise. Your level has to get higher. They need you right now. The Buccaneers have to go into a game this Sunday in Buffalo against the Bills, against a team that's coming off of a loss. And they have to play one of their best games of the season. People thought it was a coin flip going to Seattle and take on the Seahawks, and the Bucs were able to win a shootout in that one. Remember the timely interception that Levante David had before that game-winning field goal from Chase McLaughlin. They're going to need to be opportunistic this weekend. They need to be able to go out and be able to make some plays. They even won the turnover battle against the New England Patriots, but wasn't good enough. I wonder if Tristan is dealing with some pain in his knee. Not enough pain to have him questionable, but dude is not 100%. Yeah, and that's something that Ian questioned a couple of weeks ago, and we'll talk about that during the Beckles and Recher chat as well at 3:15 today. It's a great point. It's a great point. All right, so last night we saw the news, which was pretty damn cool. USF coming in at number 24 in the latest college football playoff rankings. And you didn't know if it was 25 or 24, if they'd be ranked at all. We know that Memphis lost, but you never know with these college football playoff rankings. Even the experts on set are still waiting there with bated breath. You have no idea. No idea. But, man, watching that last night, I was tuned in. I was locked in, buddy. And I'm not, again, I don't always watch the college football playoff rankings live. I eventually see them. But last night, I was like, all right, let's see where they've got USF. And they have them at 24, which is great. The highest seeded group of 5 school. And when you see that bracket revealed, you see USF as that number 12 seed going against what would be the number 5 seed Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, pretty freaking cool, man. Pretty freaking cool that we're at that point of the season where USF is playing meaningful football games, where you're watching the press conferences as this team is getting ready for the game on Saturday against the Navy midshipmen. That's all you could really ask for right now from USF when they're playing at that, in the American Conference. And I'm excited as hell for the game this weekend. They control their own destiny, which is pretty freaking cool when you think about it, where you look at these other teams out there and you're wondering if other teams are going to win or other teams are going to lose and how that affects your standing. Are you going to be one of those 12 teams to make the playoff? But if USF can get in there, I mean, it's on them. Win the game against Navy, take care of business in the last 2 regular season games, and then you host the American Conference Championship game. And then if you win that game, you're in. That's it. That's it. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because some people will say, oh, James Madison, that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen if USF takes care of business. If they can go on a nice 5 game, because they won the game last week. If they can go on a nice run here and win these games and win the conference championship, they're in. They will be the highest ranked group of 5 because, listen, they'll move up because you're going against a Navy team that is well respected around the country, and people know how tough it is to go win there. So if you win that game, you'll probably bump up a spot or 2. I'm not saying they're going to jump into the top 10, but if you win all of these games, I think when all is said and done, if you beat Navy, win the next 2 regular season games and win the conference championship, you'll probably be around 18 to 20, and you'll be in a good position. You'll be in a good position to not really have to worry about anything else going on. There'll be teams behind you in these top conferences. But you watch, and I thought Reese Davis brought up a great point last night about Miami, about when you look at the course correction in week 2 of the college football playoff rankings. And they didn't agree to that necessarily, but they did. They bumped them up a couple of spots. They need to give them a lot more credit for this win over Notre Dame. And I know Miami lost. I get it. But you beat Notre Dame, and everybody loves Notre Dame. And I know their only 2 losses have come to Miami and Texas A&M, but it's a weird dynamic where Notre Dame seems to get the benefit of the doubt. And we know how that goes. But again, I said this on Friday. The loser of that BYU Texas Tech game was going to be behind Texas and Oklahoma, no matter what. I mean, it helps the college football playoff ranking committee that BYU played as poorly as they did. So there really wasn't any type of, oh, man, I can't believe they did that. But even if that game was 31-30, even if that game was 17-16, BYU or whoever was going to lose that game was going to go behind Texas and Oklahoma. And that's what we've seen. They're slotted right behind those guys, right in front of Vanderbilt. You got to follow the money. Follow the dinero. But I was very curious to see how the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee and the broadcast last night, how they looked at USF. And one thing that I can tell you, which is pretty freaking cool, is that they seem to like USF. They seem to be enamored, at least a little bit, with Coach Alex Golesh and Byron Brown. I mean, Booger McFarland, that was the first team pretty much that he mentioned in the broadcast last night. So a lot of times when you're on the outside looking in and you may not know if you're, right, like you don't know where you stand, because that's what everybody hates in life, when you don't know where you stand. I think we look at what happened last night and you go, if USF wins out, they're in. There's no other group of 5 team that if they win out, they would be above USF. It's not there. Look at James Madison's resume. Look at their strength of schedule. Look at what USF has been able to do. And I thought it was pretty cool last night when they're talking about Miami and they're saying their key wins. And one of Miami's key wins is over South Florida. That's when you know you've arrived, when you losing is a big deal. I mean, you look at the 2 teams that they've lost to. I wouldn't say either one of those is a bad loss. I mean, you lose to Memphis, who was the top 25 team last week, and then you lose to Miami. I mean, it's on them. This is all you could ask for if you're a fan of the green and gold. Shout out to Sergio Biltras in the house. Huge game Saturday. You look at the importance of games in the history of USF football. This is right up there. You know you're going to be tested with your discipline, your gap control, your eye discipline. You heard this from Alex Golesh. I love listening to Alex Golesh's press conferences every Tuesday. If you're a USF fan, you should probably listen to it as well, because he gives so much love to the opponents. He also gives you an update on some of the players. Will we see Chaz Nimrod back? You get one of the best wide receivers in the conference back in this game against Navy. That would be huge. You look at who's stepped up for USF offensively. You look at what Nakai Davenport has been able to do in the backfield. And then I look at the wideouts, and you look at Singleton. You look at Neptune. Koger. Last year, it was Sean Atkins, and a lot more Sean Atkins. Now you're looking, if Nimrod comes back, you're looking at 4 different wide receivers. Let's take a quick pause as they play the national anthem. That's how we roll, baby. That is how we roll. And thank you very much, Richie P, with the $20 super chat. God bless America is right. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, buddy. You know how we roll here on the podcast, man. We ain't talking over Miss Sonia. We ain't doing that. But yeah, I think, put things in perspective too. With yesterday being Veterans Day, there's a lot of things that divide us in this country, but and our country is not perfect, man. It really isn't. I get that, but man, I'm going to be grateful for what we do have. Just because I'm grateful for the things that we do have in this country and the freedoms that we do have, I don't think that takes away from the changes that need to happen. I think we need to keep that in perspective, and vice versa, right? Just because you think that changes need to happen and we need to get better, right? And doesn't mean that we're not grateful for what we have and all those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And happy Veterans Day to all. Yesterday, to everybody that has served, thank you so much for your service, and especially the best, Sonia Bryson Kirksey, a dear, dear friend. She is the best. And then just think about it, a couple of years ago when she was sick during the pandemic, and it was touch and go there for a while, man. It was very, very scary. And our thoughts and prayers with her at that time. And she's a fighter, man. She's unbelievable. We love her so freaking much. Just like we love our USF Bulls, man. Very, very excited to see what's going on. All right. So Todd Bowles just spoke over there at One Buc Place, and our guy Greg Allman's got the video. So let's play. It's only about 12 seconds long, but Greg put all this work into making sure that he put this up on social media. So we will play it and show him some love, because that is how we roll on this show. Here we go. Here is our pal Greg Allman's tweet. Todd Bowles on Bucky Irving.
I know we'll walk through. He's limited today. We'll see what he does tomorrow and does Friday. So it's good to have him back out there. And it's the first step to him becoming positive and starting to work his way back. Are you I know we'll walk through. He's limited today. We'll see what he does tomorrow and does Friday. So it's good to have him back out there. And it's the first step to him becoming positive and starting to work his way back.
I mean, you could barely hear it. I tried. Of course, I don't hear it because they just post it, right? When we're on the show here. Limited. It's just a walkthrough today. He's limited. We'll see what we can get from him tomorrow. Great to see him back out there. All right, there you go. I know it's tough to hear. But a great sign. A great sign to see him back out there because they need him, man. They need him. You want to talk about a multitude of players with skills. I mean, Bucky's going to help you in that spot, no doubt. Everybody's shorthanded in this league, Todd Bowles says. He says that it is highly unlikely that guard Ben Bredesen will play this week. So that is not a good sign when it comes to the offensive line. So Bredesen out, more help at the guard spot. And I think when you look at this team as a whole, it's been next man mentality all freaking year long. And everybody's dealing with something. I just saw Buffalo talking about all the injuries that they have. And just last week going into the game against New England, everybody's, oh, yeah, New England, they don't have this guy, they don't have that guy. It's like that kind of stuff doesn't matter. Like, you got to go out there and play. Travion Henderson played. Williams played. Freaking Matt Collins played. I mean, right? It's just like, I don't know. Josh Williams suspended 6 games for violating. We saw that yesterday. I want to make sure I say this properly here. Violating NFL's PEDs policy. Okay. So you'll probably see Owen Wright, who really stood out in the preseason. Josh Williams suspended 6 games without pay for violating the NFL's policy on performance-enhancing substances. The league announced on Tuesday. Undrafted free agent from LSU, serving as Tampa Bay's number 3 ball carrier behind Rashad and Sean Tucker, while Bucky Irving recovers. So he'll be eligible for reinstatement December 22nd, following the Bucs' Week 16 game against the Carolina Panthers. Williams suspended. The team will likely activate Owen Wright or Michael Wiley from the practice squad. Rookie defensive tackle Desmond Watson released from the practice squad yesterday as well. So Josh Williams, who was a guy that really stood out in training camp, everybody was discussing that kid, and they were bringing him up, kind of similar to what we saw from Cam Johnson last year, where unprovoked people would say, well, watch out for this guy, keep an eye out for this guy. And yeah, I mean, this isn't good for him. And he's represented by his mom, who's an agent. So I'm sure that's a tough conversation to have, no doubt about it. Bull says he doesn't know the specifics of the suspension, but he said he's an honest young man. Owen Wright will step up as RB3 when Williams is sidelined, or while Williams is sidelined. So not much of a surprise there. Again, you're going to need everybody, and that RB3 could be RB4 if a guy like Bucky Irvin is back out there. So Bucky Irvin, Todd Bowles also says that the team will not be in full pads in practice this week. To see Bucky Irving, they will need to see his ability to take a hit. Irving is lifting and running, and right now it's a progression. Interesting. No full padded practice this week at all. And this is where you get into a situation where the training staff with the coaching staff and a guy like Todd Bowles, everybody is getting in on this conversation. Where are we at this point of the season? How do we take a step back? How do we make sure that we're not pushing guys at this time of year? The type of the discussion that is being had, this is something that kind of flies under the radar, something that we didn't really talk about as much. Well, we don't talk about it as much now. I think at the time we did. One thing that Bruce Arians did such a fantastic job at when he was here with the Bucs is he knew when to give his veteran guys a day off. He knew when to kind of pull back. He was tough on you. He knew when to kind of put his thumb down and on top of you. And all right, you got to be better, and knew when to push. But he also knew when to sit back. JPP got those days. Gronk got those days. Levante got those days. Mike got those days. And I think you see that same thing with Todd Bowles. You're okay with showing a little bit of a softer side when it comes to guys and their practice habits and their practice schedules. And I think it's not just individual. I think it's as a team too. You're seeing this as a team. I like that. Is it the right thing? We'll find out. But I don't know if there's any real recipe for success when it comes to keeping your guys healthy at this time of year. Do you have more padded practices so that guys are ready come Sunday? Do you have less because guys are already worn down? It's the same, discussion that we had in the beginning of the season about guys not playing in the preseason. Guys are going to get hurt every single freaking year. It's the NFL, man. It's a tough, violent sport. And I don't know really what you do to mitigate, to limit those injuries. I just think it's part of the game, unfortunately. Todd Bowles also with an update on Chris Godwin Jr. saying he's making good strides and running, but he can't say much more than that. Now, that is a step in the right direction when it comes to Chris Godwin. Because when you know the injury that he's dealing with, we've had this discussion with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez we know what the injury is. We know that he got banged up after playing a couple of games. What does the rest of the season look like? How much longer is he going to be out? Is he at risk of getting re-injured once again? I think he does, unfortunately. But you're not going to know until he gets back out there. All you want to do is you want to be able to see steps in a positive direction. Keep going forward. Go from practicing on your own to running to taking part of individual drills and then working with the team. I can't stress this enough. I would not be worried if these guys don't play this week or next week. You got to get them healthy down the stretch. And I know it's not ideal. People say, oh, well, don't you just want to get better? And yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, you just want to be one of those teams that is there at the end. You want to be one of the teams that when week 18 is in the books, that you're suiting up for either week 1 or you're ready to practice because you have a bye. It's never ideal. It's never perfect. Remember, Tom Brady thought it was 4th down, right? Like, it's never, every single time it's, smooth sailing. It just doesn't go like that. Use it as an advantage, this weak division that you're in. Use it as an advantage that you have other teams here that you're going to play that just, on a kind of a downslope, right? You can't decide what division that you're in. So use that to your advantage. You don't feel like you got to rush guys back. You're not going to miss the playoffs if you win only 10 games. Yeah, I mean, ideally you would want to win the division, be the number 1 seed, get the bye. But if that's not, you can't bitch and moan about it. You can't cry over spilled milk. You just got to do the best you can with what you have. And I think that that's the reason why you have a guy like Todd Bowles at the helm. He's not going to freak out. He's going to be even-keeled. And when everybody was talking about trying to get rid of him or you're trying to bash a guy like Todd Bowles, and you're talking about a team that's gotten better every single year, and a team that when things go wrong, and things are going to go wrong, he's not going to lose his mind. He's not going to compromise his values and the belief that the team has in him. It's not going to waver. That's all you can really ask for. I mean, you see up and down the league, and you see the questions that they have when it comes to the Dolphins or the Giants or any of these other teams out there, the Cardinals. Where's the continuity? Where's the consistency? Where's the cohesion? Where's the chemistry? You don't have to worry about that with the Buccaneers. Sometimes they go into a little bit of a funk. Sometimes they don't play as well. It's a long freaking season, man. You've seen this in the past with the Buccaneers. And we've had this conversation with Scott Reynolds a couple of weeks ago of, what happened with a guy like John Gruden. He loves John Gruden. But when things were going off the rails, John Gruden was not that guy to get the train back on the track. He was a team, if you're playing out in front and you're doing really well, that's the guy you want because he can keep that foot on the gas pedal and just go, 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 go. But would John Gruden be able to salvage what these last couple of seasons have been for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Probably not. For all the talk about the stoicism of Todd Bowles, I mean, I got faith that they'll be able to turn this thing around. I got faith that they lose these next 2 games and they're at 6-5. There's no panic for me whatsoever. Jameis Winston will be starting for the Giants this weekend against the Packers, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Also, Todd Bowles said earlier today, Todd Bowles said that he was pleased with how Luke Gedeke played during his first game back, and that playing the Bills would be a hard-fought game between 2 good teams looking to bounce back from what happened last week. Yeah, no doubt about it. And that is for all people out there that wonder about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how they will respond with a game like this. You said the same thing coming out of the bye. And look at that first drive. That first drive looked pretty good. So when you talk about how this team looked coming out of the bye, I thought that Todd Bowles had the team ready to go. So I don't know if you necessarily put that on him. The way the rest of the game went, you want to talk about him and the way he's deployed guys like I was about to say Carlton Davis, but Benjamin Morrison and Jamel Dean, he's got to wear that. It's a decision that he's made, the whole defensive staff has made, and it has not turned out the last couple of weeks. But as far as not getting to the passer, as far as the inability for guys to come down with passes and guys to be able to block, it's on the players too. And I know it's tough for some people out there because you always want to quantify it with a certain reason, or you want to denote a number. And this is why sometimes guys just didn't play good enough. You just got to play better. Sometimes it's that simple. Don't give me numbers of pressures and they gave up all these type of long yardage plays. Like, dude, you just got to play better. It can't happen. That kind of stuff cannot happen. Is it going to happen every week? You wouldn't think so, but you don't want it to become a trend either. Because what you would say early on in the season about the Buccaneers is wow, they're winning all these one. There's no way they can win more than one game like this. Well, they won a couple of games like that. There's no way that Baker Mayfield can scramble like that every single game. He's done it multiple times. Remember, when you talk about statistics, a lot of times, it's only giving you a percentage of what has happened or what could happen. You still got to go out there and play the freaking game. Throw the papers away. All right. So Erik Erlendsson is going to be joining us here momentarily. LightningInsider.com. We'll hear from Baker Mayfield a little while after we talk to our pal Erik Erlendsson. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Don't forget about the Bengals and Recher podcast coming up at 3:15 today. Let me tell you real quick about my guys and gals over there at The Honest Hammer. The Honest Hammer. Look at him, man. Crushing the game. As always, let me take this part down so you can see the whole thing. Camera. There you go. 813-244-0956. Go to thehonesthammer.com. Services, their portfolio estimates about them. Schedule a project today. Again, contact them at 813-244-0956. Honest Hammer General Contractor Company, CGC 153-116. You can email them as well, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. If you got kitchen, bathroom renovations, they can take care of you. New construction, commercial construction. You got a new custom home, you got a plot of land, you want to build a home, Russ and the crew can take care of that for you. If you have an interior or structural renovation inside of your home, maybe it's not the kitchen, maybe it's not the bathroom, they can help you as well. A lot of people are very worried when you pay these contractors to go out there and do work on your house. They do it right the first time. They're very communicative about what they do, and I just love being associated with Honest Hammer. Again, licensed, insured, Florida General Contractor, CGC 153-1166. He's a USF grad and a Tampa Bay sports fan just like you. They have discounts if you mention the Jay Recher podcast, discounts if you're first responders. You cannot beat it. Love my folks over there at Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, thehonesthammer.com, 813-244-0956. And, of course, our friends over at EverHealth. Go to everhealth.org. You're looking for a new healthcare provider. You're looking for a new job, a new career, the EverHealth Institute. Go to everhealth.org. There's 17 different locations in Pinellas County. I went over there a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. He looked at my elbow, my shoulder, my knee, my ankle. Just such a smart guy. And for years that I thought that I had, torn UCL. I thought I had a torn labrum. I thought that I had a torn meniscus. Like, you think of all these things because you're around the game. And he's like, no, man, structurally you're good. It's A, B, and C. It's not D, E, and F. Call 727-259-2020. And yeah, man, they take any kind of insurance. They have a sliding scale for the uninsured. They don't want to be your last resort. They want to be your first resort. And when you go in there, everything is so clean. I went to the High Point location. Unbelievable. Everhealth.org. These are the kind of people that you want to associate yourself with. And, of course, we have the EverHealth Injury Report every single Thursday with Dr. Rodriguez at 12:30. You do not want to miss that. A lot of injuries around the National Football League, so we will get to all of that with Dr. Rodriguez. We had him on Wednesday last week. We'll ask him about his trip up to Georgia. If anybody deserves a vacation, it's Dr. Rodriguez. That is for sure. It's getting colder in the building here. I tell you what, when you're here at the arena, like you walk in, it's usually hot outside. I know it's been cooler the last couple, but as you're here, hour after hour, when I leave at this point, at like 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I just, like last week when I left, I went outside because, again, I'm not staying for the game tonight. But last week I stayed for the game. I went outside and I went to the park across the street and I literally sat there in my suit for like almost a half hour to just warm up because it is freaking freezing in here. Before the people get here, it is nuts. Oh, and it's going to be crazy tonight as well because, the Rangers are in town. There's going to be a lot of New Yorkers here. So it's always different when the New Yorkers are in town. That's the topic of conversation that I want to have with our pal later on today. Ian Beckles about all the different people that have come in from outside of the city to be able to watch these games, because that's just the way it goes. Oh wow, look at this drone photographer at both of his custom home sites say new photos coming soon. Gotta love that with our guy Honest Hammer, again thehonesthammer.com. All right, let's bring him in for his weekly trip with us, our weekly visit. It's our pal Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. The man, don't call him a buffoon, he just loves his spoons. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Interesting Dr. Seussical rhyme there.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, battling a little bit of a sinus issue, but that's why I was away this morning. But otherwise, doing good, man.
That's good, pal. That's good. Yeah, here at the arena right now, a little different because usually games are on Tuesday and Thursday, but we got a Wednesday matchup with the Rangers tonight. And listen, being at morning skate today, it was kind of a little bit of the skeleton crew out there with Edmund not out there, Vassie not out there. But we see that a couple of guys have gone on IR. What can you tell us about that and what it means for how long you think they're going to be out?
Well, Ryan McDonough obviously blocked a shot the other night, and the fact that guy is not coming back, into the lineup kind of tells you what it might mean for him. And then Dominic James, we saw, took the puck off the face against the Capitals on Saturday. Going on IR means a minimum of 7 games. Hopefully that goes off a lot.
7 days, right? 7 days?
7 days. 7 days.
7 days.
Yeah, 7 days. The sinuses are screwing it. And look, we don't know exactly the extent of the injuries, but we know that they're going to miss tonight. They're going to miss Saturday's game. I mean, Coop even said it yesterday. Those guys are going to miss a few games at least, right? So it's hockey. Everybody blocks shots, and you're always at risk when that kind of stuff happens. And here we go with one of your most important defensemen and a rookie that has injected a lot of life into this lineup now, unavailable for at least the next couple of games.
Yeah, and then also, obviously the big game's coming up this weekend, right, against the Florida Panthers. Scott Sabourin gets called up. Kachuk gets called up. Does any of this have to do with that, Double E? Do you think there's like a roundabout way of making sure that it's not so blatant that those guys get called up? Do you think there's a little bit of a, kind of a sleight of hand type of thing here with Coop and the Bolts?
Well, we all had November 15th circled. So I'm not saying that there's a correlation, but I'm not saying there's a correlation, right? So, I mean, look, Kachuk is not that type of a player, but we know Sabourin is, and certainly we know what happened during the preseason game with Sabourin going after Ekblad there. But look, we said it then that this is not over, right? Like, there's a reason that they, claimed Curtis Douglas off of waivers. They felt they needed to kind of have a little bit more of that in their lineup. And we all had this first regular season game against the Panthers circled on the schedule for a reason. And it will be very interesting to see what happens on Saturday when these two teams do meet for the first time since that 300 penalty minute infested game where the Lightning only finished with like about 11 players on the bench at the end of the game. So, yeah, I don't think you can disguise it or hide it or make it subtle at all when you bring up Sabourin, knowing who you've got on the schedule on Saturday.
Do you think there'll be a line brawl to start the game?
I'd say there's a decent chance of that.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe if that happens, that settles things down a little bit.
Right.
But look,
I was thinking about that too.
But also Gadjevich is out for Florida. He's out for 3 months. He's one of the guys that's been injured for them. So really you've just got AJ Greer in the lineup for them. And, we'll see how Ekblad handles this, because I don't think the Lightning feel that he has answered for the hit on Hagel in the playoffs. I don't feel that they feel that is settled at all. So we'll see how Ekblad sort of handles this situation. And the interesting thing will be how the league handles it. Right? Who do they send down there as the officials? That's always a key thing to look for. It's going to be veteran guys. They're not going to send a rookie crew or even a rookie official onto this game because of the history that's already there. It's we're going to be talking. Look, we're already talking about this. The Lightning play tonight, and we're already talking about what's going on Saturday. So.
I got a chance to ask John Cooper about this today, and I wish you were here for this. I asked Coop about it, and then I asked Yanni Gord about it. Do you see similarities between the line with Gord, Goodrow, and Coleman with the line that Gord's on now with Holmberg and Gergensons? I mean, I know the high-end offensive talent's probably not there, but, man, the way that they play an honest game, it's just – I mean, and there's no surprise. Like, I think that's a reason why they've played better, because they've relied on them and they've kind of set the tone of playing that low-risk type of hockey.
Well, you said it right there. Set the tone. They're tone setters. It's there's a reason they've started a lot of periods. You know, when John Cooper throws the lineup out there, and those three guys have started a lot of games and they've started a lot of periods since they've been together. Not every one of them, but for, you know, a good portion since they've been together. And, you know, they forecheck hard. They're hard to play against. And I think that's the similarity between the two lines, is they just make it hard on the opposition. I mean, you know, look, I know Zemgus Girgensons didn't put up a lot of offensive numbers last year and people were ready to jettison them away. But, you know, you look at the way of the style of game that he plays, he's a hard forechecker. He's hard to win puck battles against, right? Like, he works the puck down low so well. Holmberg, we're finding out, is sort of the same mentality. His ability to protect the puck in tight spaces too is really kind of shown through here. Again, like, we see these players when they're on other teams, you know, a couple of times per year, so you don't really get a feel for who they are as an everyday player. And then you watch a guy like Holmberg and see some of those attributes that he has to his game and the strengths that he brings to this lineup. And I think that's one of them, is his ability to protect the puck and win battles down low. And then you just throw in Yanni Gord, who's in the middle of everything, as he always is, you know, even going back to those days when he was playing with Coleman and Goodrow. So I don't know if you're going to get the offensive production out of those guys. That's certainly the way they did. And think of some of the important goals that line scored in that run of the 2020 playoffs in particular. But I think the honesty and the tone setting, I think, is a similarity in how that they approach the game.
How important is these next couple of weeks for a guy like Darren Radish? Because it looked like he was going to be the odd man out. Now you're dealing with some injuries. Crozier, we'll see what happens to him. And now that they've kind of switched up the penalty, the power play a little bit, it seems like this is kind of like, I don't want to say a last-ditch effort, but I think this is an opportunity for him to kind of show that he should stick around.
Well, there's no doubt he's on notice.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, when they put him out with the top power play unit at the end of the game against Vegas, and that unit produced, you know, that kind of maybe brought him back around a little bit in terms of the importance of him. But look, I mean, we know that that's always been a strength and will always be a strength of Darren Radish's game. And the one thing that I liked about the fact that he was on that power play in that game against Vegas is he's not afraid to shoot the puck. He will shoot. And I think that opens up other things for that top power play unit. You know, it opens up lanes for Nikita Kucherov, because all of a sudden now you have to respect the shot from the point. And look, the power play goal that they got against Washington on Saturday was from what? Victor Hedman shooting the puck, right? It deflects off of Jay Gensel, and, you know, it gives them that gives them the lead there at the end of the first period. So I think that with Radish in particular, I mean, we know his strengths and we know his weaknesses. He has to make his weaknesses better to make it more of a viable reason to keep him in the lineup, to utilize his strengths, because you can be a great player in one aspect, but if you're deficient too much in the other, that's going to hurt your team. You're not going to find your way into the lineup. So I think you're right, especially with McDonough's injury now, and Crozier's injured, just so people understand he is injured. You know, we'll see where that kind of goes with him. You know, but this is an opportunity for Radish to kind of, you know, get his game back to where it was at the end of last season, where he had been better defensively. And that's what it's always going to be with him. How are you handling the defensive side of the game?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you hope that he can, even this deep into his career, kind of take another step forward and another step forward, because he's a great guy. And what he gives you offensively, if he could just make up for it a little bit defensively. I mean, it's so hard to find right-handed shot defensemen in this freaking league. When I'm watching this team and I'm looking at a guy like Brandon Hagel, who started out so slow, and now you look at him and he's like a point per game guy. It's amazing how he's been able to kind of turn this entire thing around. And now we're starting to see with the Olympics just a couple of months away. I saw something yesterday, and Cirelli and Hagel are not on the roster. And you are one of the few guys that even before the Four Nations came out, you were like, I think Cirelli and Hagel have a good chance to make the team. And I'm looking at it, and I know, it's Celebrini and Bedard, and everybody wants those high-profile guys. But I think Cooper and Julian did a really good job for Team Canada, understanding it's not about taking the 12 best forwards. It's about taking the best team. And how much Cooper and Bruceball love Cirelli and Hagel. I mean, when you look at how they're going to bring this team to the Olympics, do you think that they're going to go with pretty much the same team? Do you think Cirelli and Hagel have a good chance? Because Pointer's already in there.
I think that they have an excellent chance based on what they did in the Four Nations.
Right.
Because it's not all about offense.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's great that Macklin Celebrini is near the top, of the scoring leaders. And I think one of the things that people don't see about Celebrini is he is a puck winner, right? He does win a lot of battles, even for a second-year pro. And even if he doesn't make the team, that does not discount the type of player that Macklin Celebrini is. Right. It's just that theoretically, hypothetically, if you're in a gold medal match and you have to face Team USA's power play, who's out there killing the penalties?
Right.
Who are the guys? Like, you go back to the Herb Brooks line in the 1980, when they were picking their players for that team. He's like, I'm not taking the best players. I'm taking the best team. I'm looking for the best team. And that's what it comes down to. The situation with Canada, anytime they go to a best-on-best international tournament like this, it's always going to be about who doesn't make the team.
Right.
It's never about who makes the team. I mean, the McKinnons and the McDavids and those guys are automatics, right? But it's always going to be about, well, why wasn't this guy? Nick Suzuki's name has come up. Does Suzuki take Cirelli's spot? It's hard for me to envision after they had success with this team last year and winning, the Four Nations, that they wouldn't. There'll be some changes for sure.
Right.
But I know the projections have Cirelli and Hagel sort of on the bubble. Considering who their coach is, I don't know. I don't know how that can happen.
Yeah.
Because they're still one of the top penalty killing duos in the league. Now, I don't think they've shown the same chemistry so far this year that they did last year. Right? It seemed like last year, especially on the PK, they were creating offensive chances every time they were on the ice as a penalty kill unit. But when it comes down to it, when you're trying to put together this type of a team, it's great that Bedard and Celebrini are up there among the scoring leaders, but you already have your offensive guys, right? You've already got your top offensive guys. You need guys who can do other things and play roles.
Right.
And let me tell you, if Brandon Hagel, who completely endeared himself to Canadian hockey fans last year with the puck drop fight against Matthew Tkachuk, is not on this team, something's wrong.
No doubt about it. And what if they don't put them on the team and they lose? Right? Like,
well, and that's just the way it's always going to work.
It's always going to be like that, but especially because you have a proof of concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you win, well, they made the right choices. If you lose, well, why'd you pick this guy instead of this guy? Why'd you pick this guy instead of that guy? That's just the nature of the beast, and that's why, these decisions, especially for Team Canada. I mean, look, in 2014, who was not selected to Team Canada? Steven Stamkos. His second, when he was having, I'm sorry, not 14, 2010, when he had his 50-goal season. That year he got off to a great start, but he was the 19-year-old second-year player, who for Team Canada's situation, they already had their top guys. I mean, I'm already saying we didn't even make that team, and we all know how things kind of happen with that. But I find it hard to think that Cirelli and Hagel won't be a part of Team Canada just because of the specific type of role they will be asked to play.
How much of a factor is that going to be this year at the Olympics, as far as the scheduling, as far as who's not there? I mean, I think it could be a huge advantage for the Lightning that Russia's not there, because Kucherov and Vazzy could get some well-deserved time off, and those guys could be rejuvenated and maybe a little pissed, right? Like, I mean, I remember being in Toronto for the All-Star game a couple of years ago, and everybody's talking about the Four Nations, and they asked Draisaitl and Pasternak, and they're looking at each other like, what do we care? Like, they were not happy that they were not involved in that. They wanted to be involved. So could that in the long run be an advantage for certain teams, but especially with depending on what players aren't in there? Because you look at top teams and top players, and you look at Hellebuck's going to be playing, right? You look at all the McDavid's going to be playing, all these top tier players. But like, I mean, you look at the Lightning and you talk about top 20 players. I mean, if the Lightning have two of those guys in Kucherov and Vasilevsky, they're not going to be playing.
It depends on how they utilize it. Certainly, less wear and tear for sure, right? You're not going, because we know how intense, especially the later round games. I mean, there'll be gimme games, as there usually is in these international situations. But, if you're not taking 35 hits during a two-week span, if you're not facing 75 shots over the course of, whatever the Olympic tournament would be, if you're Vasilevsky, I think it can help them, especially Vazzy. I mean, with the way things went in training camp, and, he's already taken a few more days off practices and morning skates like he did today than maybe we're used to seeing from him. But all of that is by design. So the fact that he's going to get, basically a week and a half off with nothing going on, right, where he can completely get away from the game and the mental rest more than anything else, and the physical rest for a goalie of the type of hockey that he's played throughout his career. I think that can be a huge advantage. Now, having said that, I mean, the Lightning are going to have Chernak and Point and Gensel, like Hedman, some of their top guys, Hedman. They're all going to be part of the Olympics. So they'll have their fair share of players who participate in the Olympics. But having two of the top guys, two of the most important guys on your team, not participating, I think you can use that as a positive.
Think Vasi plays on Saturday against Florida?
Excellent question.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either.
I think you keep him away from that whole thing.
I do too. And look, Johansson shut the Panthers out down there last year.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a game where Kucherov got ejected, the 5-minute major. They had to kill off a long extended 5-on-3 in that game. And Johansson was the guy in net. He shut him out. I think in this situation, I agree with you. I think Vazzy starts on Sunday against Vancouver.
All right. So what do you think happens on Saturday? What are we going to be talking about next Wednesday regarding that game?
Well, like we said, this situation between these two teams is not over. It's not over. I remember I've had some conversations with Brian Engblom, after that happened. And, the Flyers in the 70s were that team, right? They were the Broad Street Bullies. And, they would do that. And then, there was a game where the Canadians basically said, enough, we're going to stand up to you. And they had one of those type of games. And that's when the Canadians turned things around, and they were the team that won back-to-back cups, right? So that's what I'm saying. The preseason was fine, right? It sent a message. The Lightning certainly wanted to send a message, and they paid for the message that they sent. But I don't think the message was fully delivered, right? I think that message is going to be fully delivered on Saturday, and I'd be surprised if Sabourin and Douglas are both not in that lineup. For a number of reasons, because, again, I don't think that AJ Greer has answered for his sucker punch of Hagel during the preseason game here in Tampa. I don't think that they feel Ekblad has answered, especially with, sort of the blasé attitude that Ekblad had when he was asked about it after the hit. I'm moving on, right? Like, he didn't reach out to Hagel in any way, nothing. And the fact that, what's the saying on the championship rings? Apologize for nothing. We apologize for nothing. Yeah. I mean, that's just blatantly throwing it in people's faces. Yeah. So we will be talking next Wednesday about what will probably be a fight-filled fest on Saturday that just happens to be centered around a hockey game.
Lastly, we're hearing more and more about Steven Stamkos, and just saw something yesterday, and Corey brought this up. Happy birthday to our pal Corey Long. Nightmare scenarios. We talked about it on Halloween, and people are talking about Steven Stamkos possibly going to play for the Florida Panthers or playing for a team like the Anaheim Ducks, who have been fantastic. I mean, it'd be Anaheim. I mean, I look at that, and I'm sure he would love that. Go out there, play with Killer. You know what I mean? Like, that'd be pretty. There's veterans, Kreider over there, Trouba. So I mean, guys that have been around the league. So that'd be a nice veteran locker room mixed in with some of the young guys. But man, to see Steven Stamkos in a Florida Panthers jersey, brother, ooh boy, that would not be well received here in the Tampa Bay area. Possibilities of that happening, probabilities of that happening. I mean, because it's not going well there in Nashville for Stammer.
No, it's not. But let's remember he has complete and total control over whatever happens. Right. He has a complete no move clause, which means they can't waive him, can't trade him, can't move him at all without his agreeing to it. Could I see him agreeing to a trade to the Florida Panthers? I can't see it.
No, okay.
I can't see it. I there's just too much, I think, between the two. Look, I know it's a professional situation, and but he has to green light that move, and I don't see that coming to fruition for that. Look, I think even if Nashville wants to move him, that's difficult.
Yeah,
like it's difficult. Like, first of all, he gets to pick to where he wants to go, which means you're limited in what you can do.
And you got to eat some of that money, right?
Then you got the $8 million contract, right? And I don't know what Nashville's situation is, but remember the new CBA, some of those new provisions kick in, and that also limits the number of retentions you can have, which means you'd have to have a retention on Stamkos' contract for 3 years, including this year, right? So there's a lot to take in outside of just we feel that we need to move a contract, because the contract is difficult to move. Remember Roberto Luongo, the famous line he said, "My contract sucks," because nobody wanted to take on the deal towards the end of his career. And I think that's the same here when you look especially at the lack of production that Steven Stamkos has had playing with Nashville when it felt like a good fit at the time. So, no, it's hard. Well, first of all, it's very hard for me to imagine Stamkos in a Florida Panthers jersey to begin with, but I also think it would be difficult to make that work and get him to sign off on it.
God, I
So
hope that doesn't happen.
no Corey, no nightmare scenario.
What do we got up on lightinginsider.com, my brother?
Hey, it's been slow, man. Like I said, I've been trying to fight off some sinus issues here really since Saturday night. So I've kind of laid low for the past few days, trying to get as much rest as I can. I feel a lot better now, so I will be at tonight's game. So nothing up since Saturday's recap, but still plenty of content up there to digest and everything else. And look, the schedule is going to start getting busy. They play every other day right now, basically through the end of the month, coming out of November. So busy times coming ahead for this team.
Going to be crazy, man, for sure. I won't be there tonight. Got baseball practice. We got a big tournament this weekend. So we tagged off. I did morning skate. You're going to do the game tonight. Make sure you follow Erik on Twitter /X, Erik_Erlendsson. That's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D. Sign up for lightinginsider.com today. $10 off if you use that promo code JNZ, not just this year, but every recurring season after that. Double E, always a pleasure, my friend. Get healthy. Enjoy the game tonight. Talk to you next week.
All right. Yeah, I don't think we'll have anything to talk about.
Got that right, pal. Thanks, E.
All right, be well.
All right, man, you too. Oh, my gosh. It's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be crazy, that game. We play, I think, at 12, and we play at 10 and 2:30 this weekend. If we didn't have a tournament this weekend, I would be down there in South Florida, go and watch that game. Not watch a game, but cover that game. But it's just too much. But I'll be locked in. This is what I love about sports, man. I love the circus acts. I love the freak shows. I love the things where it's like it's not going to be a normal hockey game. You're going to be able to cut the tension with a knife at Amerant Bank Arena on Saturday. Everybody knows what's going down. E brought up a great point about the referees. It's going to be a veteran-laden crew. All eyes in the National Hockey League are going to be focused on that game. Whatever happens, the repercussions from that game are something to keep an eye on. There's going to be, like, if this is going to go to hell in a handbasket, there's going to be suspension. There's going to be fines. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper and Maurice are yelling at each other from bench to bench, and those guys get along pretty well, but there's gamesmanship. And if you remember last year in the playoffs, I don't know if I asked it, Eric asked it, Ed asked it, somebody, but we asked about gamesmanship on the mic, because you remember when, Paul Maurice said, oh, we only hit guys with pucks. And then a couple of days later, I asked John Cooper, and he echoed those same sentiments. This is, and Erik said this months ago, this is not over. And I tell you what, I don't know if it's over after Saturday because they got to come back here. Matthew Tkachuk's not in the lineup, so he's going to want his pound of flesh when he comes back. Yeah, man, this is going to be crazy. And we've been clamoring and wanting a rivalry for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, you got it. You got it right now. Both these teams have success. Both these teams have won Stanley Cups. Both these teams clearly do not like each other. And as much as I don't necessarily love the way that the playoff format has gone, it's given us this. So I guess in a way, I hate to say it, but even though I hate that you play the same freaking teams all the time in the first round, is this a byproduct of that? Is that necessarily a good thing? I don't know, but we're here. We are here, and it is going to get your popcorn ready for Saturday because that shit is going to be nuts. Again, Erik Erlendsson, follow him and go to lightninginsider.com. Sign up today. All right, before we roll, I wanted to play something from Baker Mayfield. He spoke earlier today, and Ian and I got in this discussion on Monday about Baker. Ian was not thrilled about what was going on with Baker Mayfield and what he said after the game and talking about the pride that the team needs to play with. And listen, in essence, like he's calling out his team. And for a guy like Baker Mayfield, who hasn't really played all that great the last couple of weeks, it's interesting that this is kind of the angle that he would take. He's also not running the football as much either. Here's what Baker had to say about that, about him kind of staying in the pocket and not using his legs as much as we saw earlier on in the season.
You just not feeling like running? What's the thought process there?
Schematically, obviously starting in Detroit, they started with the spy defense on third down, some of that stuff, and just discipline in the rush lanes. And for me, not feeling like I was able to get up to full speed, scrambling to throw, which is what I try and do every time. But sometimes, earlier in the season, the run lines were there. So looking to throw, and as I get healthier, still trying to take advantage of whatever they're giving me.
You just not feeling like.
Can't really hear much from Baker there either. Now, here's the thing we have to be cognizant of when it comes to Baker Mayfield. My guy wears his emotions on his sleeve. And as much as we love that when things are going well, it's something you have to be aware of when things aren't going well. Because Baker's looking a little bit like how Baker looked in Cleveland. Remember the whole thing when he looked like one of the wet bandits from Home Alone? Baker, I think that's one of the things where he is going to grow and to mature in certain ways of knowing how to handle with some of the negativity and handle some of the bad play and to be able to continue to be a positive and optimistic voice going forward. Because that's what the Buccaneers need. We've said that the best thing about this team is that there is that combination of the leadership. It's the stoicism with Todd Bowles, the even keel, not get too high, not get too low, but also the idea from Baker Mayfield of putting your head down and doing whatever it takes to be successful. But I think they can learn from each other, right? Baker Mayfield admitted he's not 100% and says that no player is 100%. He said he's a professional and prepared to get his body the best it can be for Sundays. And listen, they're going to need him. They're going to need him to play at a very high level if this team is going to achieve what they think that they can achieve. Remember, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Baker Mayfield and the MVP discussion. Now, everybody out there is like, the sky is falling. What's up with this team? What's up with Baker? You're never as great as you are on your best day, and you're never as bad as you are on your worst day. Let's keep that whole thing in perspective. But an opportunity for the Buccaneers to show that they are one of the better teams. Because listen, as much as they've fallen down the rankings because of what they did last week against New England, they go out there and they go up to Buffalo and beat the Bills. They're going to be right back in the conversation. They'll be 7-3, and everybody's like, all right, well, why can't they beat the Rams? It's a long season. There's a lot of good football teams in the NFL, and you never know. It's a week-by-week game. Who would have thought that the Buffalo Bills lose to the Miami Dolphins? Who would have thought the Carolina Panthers would have lost to the New Orleans Saints? You just don't know. No, none of the experts out there on ESPN or NFL Network, nobody picked those two games that way last week. No one. Just the way it goes. That's why you got to go out there, and that is why you play the game. The game tonight here at Benchmark International Arena, Lightning and Rangers. Go check that one out. Should be fun. Make sure you listen to it on the bone or watch it on TV. It's a TNT game tonight. Brendan Burke and Darren Pang were here. I saw the lovely Jackie Redmond as well. So if it's not, you don't see it on Scripps tonight, it is because it is on TNT. It's a doubleheader tonight with the first game, of course, being Lightning and Rangers. A big thank you to Erik Erlendsson from lightninginsider.com for joining us on the program again. I won't be here tonight because I got practice. We got a big tournament this weekend. So, of course, follow Ed, follow Eric, follow D'Angelo. Going to be a lot of fun talking about the Lightning over these next couple of weeks, especially with the big matchup with the Panthers on Saturday night. A big thank you to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders and Evra Health. And make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to get up to 2,000 by the end of the year. A big thank you to our super chats. Chan with a couple of $5. And, of course, Richie P as well. Could not do this without you guys. We're back tomorrow at the home headquarters, 12:30 tomorrow. Carlos Rodriguez, the doc, will join us for the EverHealth Injury Report. And then at 1:30, our pal Eddie Encina from the Tampa Bay Times. I love you all. Thank you so much for the support. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. I am gone.